The next filter that we're going to look at here in Photoshop is one of the newer filters that was just added a couple iterations back. And it's one that's a lot of fun. It's called Oil Paint. And you can do some pretty cool things with it. It's a painting effects filter, as you would guess. And the object of it is to make your photograph or image look somewhat like an oil painting rather. And the controls are pretty straightforward. You have stylize and cleanliness, which controls the shapes of the brushes and how much the object is being distorted. Scale controls the size of the texture that you see from the brushes. Bristle detail is exactly what you think it is. It controls the detail for the brush itself, and then the lighting actually controls the dimensionality of the canvas. So you can see the angular direction is currently 300 degrees, and then shine controls how pronounced that texture is. Now, what I've started doing in many cases is actually turning the shine down to 0 just so that I can benefit from the effects of the brushes themselves, just because it does some pretty interesting things with your objects. The more you increase these numbers, you can see where it has a really cool effect in smoothing out certain elements of your painting. And actually, let me open up another photograph here that has some trees that may show that. Actually, you know what? Let's take a look at this cover bridge. Even though this is pretty much just outlines, as you can see, let's apply this filter to these outlines and you'll be able to see what happens. So I'm going to turn the shine down to 0. And so you'll notice that the more I increase stylization and cleanliness, the more of this effect takes place and takes over. And of course, if I say increase the cleanliness to 10 and keep stylized down, it affects the image a certain way, versus if I reverse those two, which is usually what I tend to do. I usually tend to go higher with stylization and lower with cleanliness. But you can see how it actually creates a pretty cool effect. Now, one thing that I'll point out, let me apply this. One thing that I'll point out that this actually does is, in order for it to have that texture, if you use the shine to add texture, the white area actually isn't pure white. As a matter of fact, if we come up to window and activate info, you can see if I mouse over the white area, if you look at the CMYK on the right, you'll notice that it's 5% cyan, 3% magenta, and yellow. And so there's just a slight tint to the white. And in most cases, that's probably fine for you, but there is a workaround that you can use to get rid of that if you would like to. And by the way, let's just look at a quick before and after. So that's what our image looked like before and after. So you can see where it does some pretty cool things with lines and trees and those kinds of things. But let me show you a quick workaround. Actually, let's apply the filter to reset that white back to 100% white. You can do a very simple trick using levels. So we want to hit Control or Command L to bring up levels. And you'll notice when we looked at levels before, we had the eyedroppers over here, right? And if we double click on the highlight eyedropper, we want to make sure that all of these percentages are set to 0. And the reason why is because wherever we click with the highlight eyedropper selected, it will reset that value to whatever we have set here, which in this case is 0. And that's what we want. So if I click the white area here, it'll reset it from that tint that was added by oil paint to 100% white. And watch. Notice how it just brightened it up a little bit. The other thing that's cool in working with levels and after applying the oil paint, especially if you're working with black and white images, is that you can use the sliders to to darken it up and add additional effects as well. And so then we can just simply click OK. And so now if I bring up the info panel again, you'll notice that the white area where my cursor is all zeros. So it's 100% white, just like it's supposed to be. So I really encourage you to experiment with the oil paint filter. You can do some really cool things with it to take your photographs, whether you're using them for a design that you're creating for t-shirts or book covers or whatever, or just for your own personal satisfaction for framed art or whatever. You can do some pretty cool things with your photographs to just add an extra level of artistic quality to them that otherwise you may not be able to achieve.